All right, thank you so much for joining us on our 137th edition of Lunch Out Loud Ottawa. My name is Nick Bachewski, and of course, we're the podcast that talks to the people, places, events, and music that make this city the incredible city that it is. And one of the things that drew me to this city was, as I've talked about several times on this show, is the canal and running on the canal. And one of my earliest memories about 14, 15 years ago was running on the canal and seeing these large groups of people that were happy and running. And I thought, man, this is awesome because I never saw that in my hometown. So I'm very pleased to be with Phil Marsh from the Running Room. And before we get to him, why don't we check this out?
Hey, this is Vanessa Lewis.
And Bill Burns.
We're from Sounds of Stories.
We'd like to say thanks to Lunch Out Loud for having us on their show. They do a lot of great work with the community, promoting local events, businesses, artisans, and musicians. So thanks again for having us. Just to talk a little bit about ourselves, we released our first album called The Voyage in September. You can check it out on iTunes, Bandcamp, and Spotify to give it a listen.
Yeah, we also just played a show in Toronto for the first time. We did a Toronto edition CD release that went really awesome. We also played our album recently on Ottawa Live Music on CKCU 93.1 FM. That was awesome success as well. We're currently working on organizing some upcoming shows. We have one coming up at 1848 at Ottawa U, and we're really pumped about that show because majority of our band members are Ottawa U alumni, so we're really excited to get back on campus.
We have some plans for the future, but we don't want to give out too much information. But, going out to Montreal is in the works, and there's a few other shows that we're looking forward to in the summertime. But again, we can't unveil everything at this moment.
So to hear about more shows and stay updated with the band, you can check us out on our website, www.soundsofstories.com. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks again for having us. We're Sounds of Stories.
All right, thank you so much. So that band was Sounds of Stories, and I was introduced to them, oddly enough, in the summer of August 2014, when I was just having a couple local craft beers on the front patio of my apartment, and I heard them playing across the street, and I just had to talk to them and figure out, who are you, what is your deal, and they had just started. So I told them to get at me when they had some recorded shows. Sure enough, they did, and I can see them playing a lot of summer festivals. A great summer festival band, and great for the winter too, to get you thinking about the summer. So a lot of great stuff there. So that was Not My Home, and definitely check them out online, on Facebook, everything like that. Thank you so much. Of course, at halftime today, we're going to have Jen from Foodie Prince. There's a lot of Christmas markets coming up this weekend, so lots of good local stuff. Everybody's going to be shopping. There's going to be a lot of Black Friday deals, but remember, those craft sales.
Yeah.
And so they'll be good. We'll be talking about the Christmas market at the Museum of Nature. I think that's history. It might be nature. We're going to hear in a bit. Ottawa's Farmers Market, Christmas Market is coming up. And, of course, Beyond the Pale's 3-year anniversary. That's going to be a lot of fun. I will be attending that. All right. Thank you so much for having me here today, Phil.
Welcome.
It was a pleasure. I'm here at the Bank Street location. Lots of great things at this store. I see technology is always improving on your equipment for running, but I see that the section for injuries is getting a little better. So has that been increasing over the years when people have started figuring out, there are some good rollers and now there's balls and...
Yeah, I think so. The big change in the last 5 years has been on prevention. We have a lot. If you look at Ottawa Race Weekend, it's 40,000, almost 50,000 people running and walking, and a lot of these people are newer to the sport. So now they're getting, they have a physiotherapist, now they have a chiropractor, now they have a massage therapist, and a couple of the big things now is instead of being reactive to injuries, is having a focus on being proactive. So, okay, I could get injured. Here's the things that could happen if I run or walk. So I'm going to start using a foam roller. I'm going to start doing yoga to get more flexible and get better body awareness. I'm going to, my body's an engine, so it needs proper fuel. So I'm going to have the engineered products like the power bars and the gels and the goos, things like that. I'm going to get, I'm going to have certain muscles that are going to get overused. So you get the little things like, the prickly balls, the yoga balls.
What is the prickly ball for?
It just gets in and really deeply massages the interior of the muscle. And so what will happen is they'll put the pressure deep on one of the muscles that's maybe tight, and that pressure with all the little nibs on it will force the muscle to contract. And then if you keep that on there long enough, at some point the muscle has to relax and run out of energy. And then when it does relax, then you sometimes can get it to unseize and relax a little bit more. So at worst, it feels good after, because it's getting a lot of blood flow to the area. And again, a lot of it is just trying to take a proactive approach to staying healthy instead of constantly being, I hurt my hamstring tonight. Oh, I hurt my calf tonight. If you do a lot of the preventive stuff, then you're going to have a lot more longevity in any sport, whether it's rollerblading, running, whatever. But there's so much more education out there now, especially with things like podcasts and the web. You can find out a lot about your sport, and then you can know, okay, what can I do to make this a lifestyle thing, not just something I'm going to do for a year and then get out of it because I get injured.
Yeah, and you're talking to a guy that knows that all too well. What about for knees? What are some has there been any new things for knees? Because I just got back from the surgeon yesterday. I don't have to go for surgery, but I do have a bruised tibia, and I think rest is the only thing I can do with that. Yeah. But is there any other preventions for knees?
I think, there's a huge misconception over the years of, we still get that, running's bad for my knees. It's almost become the go-to default excuse for getting out of sport. And I know you're not using it. But, when you're talking to somebody and saying, hey, I should get active, running's bad for your knees, or, oh, my knees are bad. A lot of that is footwear, whether it's the running specific footwear or what people wear through the day. As we get older, or as women have children, sometimes their feet expand, the arch changes shape. Even genetically, there are predispositions to different feet types. So I think a lot of the problem that we see in the sport is that people aren't wearing the proper shoes. And again, it doesn't have to be the most expensive shoe. Rarely is the most expensive shoe the best one for your foot. Okay. But it's one that's designed for your foot. And just like you wouldn't go play golf in a pair of curling shoes, or you wouldn't go bowling in a pair of golf shoes, same as running. Running shoes are designed to go straight forward. They're not aerobic shoes to go left and right. They're not made for court use, etc. But there's a design to them. And there are variations in design. But the bottom line is, if you go into a running shop that the staff run and they can do a gait analysis, you can spend 5-10 minutes and have them take a look at the wear pattern on the shoe. They can take a look at you walking barefoot, do a couple of little tests with squatting and stuff, and have a pretty good idea. If not, if they can't come up with it, they're not going to sell you a shoe. What they should do is be sending you then to a chiropodist, a podiatrist, some kind of a physiotherapist, a foot specialist. A lot of times the shoe isn't going to cure something like your knee. Yeah. And so you want to get a second opinion and say, you know what, go talk to this specialist here and see what they think. And even to the point where some places now will do high-speed video, 1,000 frames a second on a treadmill. Yeah. And then they can break down frame by frame what's happening with the foot, what's happening with the angles on the knee. And you also being, adults being visual learners for the most part, you also get a little bit better sense of, oh, this is what my body's doing. Great. And then you can kind of have an idea of what kind of shoe to go into. And back to the preventive stuff, are you doing the core as you get older? Is your posture popping down a little bit? Are you sitting at a desk 8 hours a day and then your hamstrings are getting tight and atrophied, your Achilles tendon's getting tight from the angle of dress shoes, etc.? you can't just go out after 8 or 10 hours a day of sitting like that and then all of a sudden go out and decide I'm going to go do 20 hills in a workout.
Yeah.
Your body just isn't going to be ready for it.
So there's so much. It's so much to learn for this sport that is not just the straight running, which many people think. Do you have a lot of demos here? Like, say, because there's great technology and you have great people making these new products for prevention, but maybe some people don't know. Do you have demos when like a new product comes out, or maybe once, like some seminars once in a while?
Yeah, like that's part of the reason we do our running clinics, because we'll do, for example, we do everything from learn to run right up to the marathon, and we'll do a 10 or 16 week program, and each week the format for that main reason, people kind of laugh, it's like, wow, learn to run, come on, I'm not an idiot, I can put one foot in front of the other and just go. Absolutely, and some people can do that very well, but other people want to know the how, where, when, why, etc. behind it. So the clinic each week will have somebody come in, and it's a sports injuries doctor, a sports psychologist, a nutritionist, a personal trainer, somebody to talk about biomechanics, somebody to talk about how to do core and stretch properly. So each week there's a half-hour lecture, so you're learning, and then you get to do a little bit of homework. So over 10 weeks, you're literally, you're running 3 times a week during that phase. But the key component for a lot of people is they don't normally have access to a personal trainer or a chiropractor or a massage therapist or whatever without knowing, it's almost like a little mini audition. They can hear a specialist speak and then decide. One of the funniest things I've ever seen about runners is that we know running takes good fuel to perform properly, just like a sports car. And yet I can count on my one hand, how many even of the athletes I coach over the years have actually taken the time to pay for a dietitian or a nutritionist. Yeah. And yet they all know. Everybody knows, and everybody's had GI problems when they run from eating the wrong thing. They've had cramps. They've had iron deficient, especially in women. They've been anemic, and yet they won't go and actually speak to somebody about, hey, I need a dietary plan. And I think for the most part, it's a fear of having to do a 2-week diary, same as a budget. You tell somebody, okay, write down every penny you spend for 2 weeks. Most people aren't gonna, because they're gonna be like, oh, I know what I spend. I don't want to see it. Yeah. Same as the diet. I think a lot of people don't want to look at all the crap that actually goes into their system, and have to realize that I have to make some changes. So I think there's that little bit of fear at that point. But with the other stuff, most people, if they don't have an injury, they're not going to go see a physio. But then all of a sudden the physio speaks to them and says, well, this is what you can do, this is what you can look for. Then they go, oh, hey, I didn't know a physio. Yeah,
a lot of it's common problems that they've heard before, and they're like, oh, okay, so that's what I've always been wondering. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that's where the great thing about our clinics goes, but there's also a lot of information on the web. It's just trying to determine the good and the bad. John Stanton, who founded The Running Room, has got the best-selling running book in the world, and that book can tell you everything. But it's like running. It's that social thing. You still want that interaction with the group. You still want to be able to throw feedback back and forth. Same as a podcast. If you're just reading to everybody, you're not going to have anybody listening. Yeah. But if you're getting that interaction and that feedback, it becomes engaging. And I think people want to be engaged with whatever activity they're doing.
So how many, so they're 10-week clinics?
10 or 16.
10 or 16. How often are they being introduced here at the Running Room?
Well, we'll do... A lot of them focus on major events. So obviously we have clinics that start in March for 10 weeks to get ready for race weekend, because it's, we're a major sponsor and it's one of the biggest events in North America. And then our marathon and half marathon clinic that get ready for race weekend, they start end of January. So they're 16 weeks. And then we start over again for Army Run with the 5K and the half marathon. And then there are other 5 and 10Ks around, like St. Paddy's Day and Run for Reach and Xerox and stuff that through the year. So each store will generally have 4 or 5 of each 10-week clinic, and they'll have 2 or 3 of the longer clinics, so that our clients can focus with a group on big events.
When did you arrive in Ottawa again?
In Ottawa, 99.
99.
Yeah.
How many races were in Ottawa a year in 99 versus how many are now going up in 2016?
I would say it's probably doubled anyway.
Only doubled. I thought it would have been more.
Well,
so now
there's only so much time.
Sportstat and everything.
There's only so much time on the schedule. Somersault do a lot of, especially multi-sport events. Running Room, we have a ton of events. I think what's happened is there's when a spot opens up, when a race has a kind of a life cycle, something else replaces it. But Ottawa, you can probably find at least 3